Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Midweek program at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum. My name is Blake, and I'm the education assistant here at the Arboretum, and today we are in the staff building because it is really, really cold, but that's okay. We are nice and warm in here. We've got a wonderful presentation for you today. We've got our curator, Dennis Carey, here, who's pulled together a presentation, The Pharmacy in Your Plants. We're going to be talking about all the different compounds that plants make and a lot of the medicinal uses that come from such compounds. So it should be an incredibly interesting program. Alrighty, those of you watching this on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, and feel free to leave a comment down below. And with the announcements out of the way, I can pass things over to Dennis to teach us a little bit about the pharmacy in our plants.
All right, thank you. And I also wanted the auction for the Winter Symposium.
Oh gosh, yeah, there's an auction for the Winter Symposium.
A few days before the Winter Symposium, the Wednesday before, we'll have a rare plant auction, and that will go live. And it'll go run from Wednesday to Saturday. Well, it's only on my mind because that's what
yeah,
I've been working on.
I'm in education world. Y'all can deal with the auction.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to talk about the interesting chemicals that plants make, but we're going to kind of limit it to, we're going to talk really about what are the plants that are in your garden that have interesting chemicals also. So we love our plants for aesthetic reasons and for ecological reasons, and some of them have a cool history and backstory, and now we can also learn to love our plants because of these chemical reasons, these phytochemistry reasons as well. It's just a way to enjoy the plants that we're growing even more. So you might have heard some of these topics I'm going to talk about, but in terms of the plants that were being discussed were tropical plants. You can't grow them here. These are plants that you can go out of your back door or come up to the Arboretum and enjoy these plants today. Well, some of them are annuals. You'll enjoy them in June. But we are going to talk about some medical stuff. We're going to talk about all kinds of chemical uses in addition to medicine. All right, let's see. Good. So I want to get a couple definitions out of the way just so that I don't leave anyone behind. Most of you have probably heard these things anyway, but I want to just put a definition to some of these things. There's this term I'm going to use, secondary metabolite, and all that means is a chemical produced by the metabolism of an organism, and in this case a plant, that is not used in the minute-to-minute survival of that plant. Okay, it's needed for the survival of the plant, but not on a minute-to-minute basis. So it's used for things like dealing with pests, dealing with environmental stress, dealing with competition, and things that you do need to survive, but you don't need to survive. Like we need our heart to be working always, so that would be primary metabolism. And so, but these are secondary metabolism. All these chemicals we're going to be talking about today are the result of secondary metabolism inside of plants. I'm going to use this term phytochemical. We all know what the word chemical means, but phyto, that prefix just means plant. So these are plant-derived chemicals, plant-based chemicals. And another term I'm going to use is ethnobotany. Ethnobotany is the study of how human cultures use plants. And so we're going to be talking about these chemicals, these interesting chemicals in the plants, and how humans use them. So this is an ethnobotanical view of the plants that are in our garden. Okay, ethnobotany, great. So plants, unlike animals, plants cannot move. We experience the world through our physicality. If there's something dangerous, we can move away from it. If there's something hot, we can find some shade. If we're thirsty, we can go walk to get some water. Plants do not experience the world like we do. They experience the world almost entirely in a chemical sense. Anything that they need, they have to produce a chemical, a secondary metabolite or phytochemical, in order to do. So plants produce enormous numbers of phytochemicals, hundreds of thousands of them, way more phytochemicals or chemicals than animals produce. And over the centuries, humans have learned to use these chemicals in sometimes similarly to how the plant's using them and sometimes in other ways, but we use them to our benefit. And we're going to look at the plants that are in our garden that have these interesting chemicals. Now, if this were a college class, I would start off with this little chart on the left and make the students learn all the different names and structures of these different types of phytochemicals and how they're related to each other and the families and how the metabolic pathways by which they're produced and the genes which control those metabolic pathways. But we're not going to do that. We're going to do it on the right side of the screen. We're going to take this more ethnobotanical view and just say, here's some interesting areas where human beings have used plant chemicals, phytochemicals, to do things that humans want to do. Okay, I am going to use one or two terms from this chart on the left. I might use the word tannin. I might use the word terpene, alkaloid, but for the most part, we're not going to worry about the chemistry part of it when we're talking about the chemicals. So the first area we'll talk about humans using plant-based chemicals are with dyes and mordants. There's mordants. There are naturally occurring plant-based dyes. And everyone who's been to elementary school has taken red cabbage leaves and dyed an Easter egg with them and things like that. And that's certainly is part of it. A lot of different plant parts can be used as dyes. Leaves, fruits, seeds, flowers, and there's this thing called a mordant. What a mordant is in the dyeing world is some pigments come out of the plant and they are still sticky enough to attach to your textile or your Easter egg or whatever is substrate is you're dyeing. Some of them pigments come out of the plant and they are not very sticky and they do not want to fix themselves to your substrate. And you need a fixative agent, and that's what a mordant is. And mordants are usually mineral salts of some sort or another. One commonly used one called alum. You've probably heard the word alum and not really realized what it was, but it's a type of mordant. Another interesting thing is because sometimes we're taking these pigments out and mixing them with a mordant or some other agent, sometimes the color changes so we're looking at, let's say if you're looking at this screen right now, on the egg on the left, there's a purple hibiscus leaf or the remains of one, but it produced a green dye, and that's because you take that dye out, and pigments are pH sensitive, so you've changed the pH, you might have mixed it with a mordant or something else and caused that pigment to start reflecting a different color other than the color it was reflecting when it was happily inside the plant cell. So let's look at some of the plants that might be in your garden that can be used for dyes. All right, we're going to start with the trees, and these lists are not exhaustive. There's hundreds and hundreds for each of these slides I'm going to show you, there's actually hundreds and hundreds of plants, and I'm only going to show you a handful because I only have 45 minutes or so. For trees, we can extract dyes out of walnuts and butternuts. Those are in the genus Juglans, and pecans in the genus Carey. And those three examples, we are actually using the husk of the fruit or the nut to extract the dye. And the dyes tend to be in the brown tones and whatnot. And so that picture there, that's of a black walnut with some black walnut fruit on them. And you break those open and they're black on the inside, and you can extract out. And those are some yarns with some nice brown dyes you get out of them. Some of you might be growing cottonwood in your yard. Cottonwood, we use the flower buds actually to extract dye from. It's different parts in different plants. Sassafras, the one we grow here in the U.S., we use the wood to extract dyes, and we're getting like an orange or yellow dye out of the wood. Some people will also try and get dyes out of the fall foliage, especially in the plants like sassafras or Japanese maple or whatever, where they have colorful fall foliage. They'll extract pigments out of there as well. Maples, depends on the maple and which plant part you're using. If it's Acer rubrum, you're using the bark. If it's silver maple, you're using twigs. If it's Japanese maple, you might be using the foliage. And you get various colors out of maples too. But these are all plants that you have growing in your yard that are used to produce dyes. Shrubs, same thing. You can use flowers, fruits, twigs, leaves, whatever. The picture I have here is of goldenrod, and we're using the flowers, and we make a nice yellow pigment. Smooth sumac, Rus glabra, we use the fruits. They have it's a reddish colored fruit. You get a reddish colored pigment. Same with blackberries and choke cherries in this list. You're using the fruits. Butterfly bush, Buddleia, you're using either the flowers, the stems, or the leaves. And you don't always get the color pigment out that you expect, but you can get pigments out of butterfly bush. And boxwood, you can actually use boxwood in natural dyes, and it actually makes a auburn colored dye. For people who want to dye their hair this reddish brown color, you can get an auburn hair dye out of boxwood leaves. So that's kind of interesting. Camellia is cool. Various camellias, you use the red or pink flowered ones, and you extract the dye, but it changes the color when it comes out of the petal. You get green tones out of the red and pink flowered camellias.
That's wild.
So some annuals and perennials, same sort of thing. The picture there, that is of bloodroot, Sanguinaria canadensis. That's one of my favorite little native ephemerals. And it is the middle of January now that we're filming this, but in another 8 weeks or so, those will be popping up in the woods. And if you are lucky enough to have one in your garden. And we use the root. It's called bloodroot for a reason. There's a picture of the root there. It is blood red. And it's used in a variety of purposes. The one we're going to talk about is as a dye. And you get this kind of reddish, orangish dye out of it. May apples. A few weeks after bloodroot, you go back to the same set of woods and you'll see May apples coming up, and you get like grayish and brownish dyes, yellowish. Iris and Asclepias, you're using flowers, so whatever color, a blue iris will make a blue dye, and a orange Asclepias will make an orange dye, and so on and so on. Red cabbage, that's a vegetable, but we grow it here, so it made my list. Red dye. Yarrow, we're using the flowers, whatever color yarrow it is, usually yellow. And so on and so on. The one I did want to mention, onions. Onions show up a lot in these ethnobotanical lists. Onion, in this case, it's onion skins from yellow onions make a yellow dye, and onion skins from red onions make a red dye, and so on. We even use some of the weeds that grow in our garden for pigments. Pokeweed. Of course, if you ever touch the fruit, it gets all over you and it stains your clothes. It does make a bright purple pigment. And stinging nettles make greenish pigments. If you have stinging nettles, you want to get rid of them, but do something with them. You can actually eat them too. We're not going to talk too much about culinary uses of plants. That's just too much time. I'm going to mention one little aspect of that in a little bit. And the last thing, there are a few plants that can be used as mordants, as fixatives. And the one I have a photo of here is Heuchera americana, which the common name for Heuchera is alum root. And that's why I described what alum was before, is so that you would know they called Heuchera alum root because the substance in the roots acts as a mordant used in dyeing. The next area we're going to talk about are perfumes in the perfume industry, and kind of secondary to that, essential oils. Both of these are we're extracting the fragrance out of the fruit, out of the flower rather, in this case. And usually you do that by boiling it, and you then you pick a temperature, you distill out the essential oil at a particular temperature, and you continue to distill it to refine it. You distill it several times until you get pure essential oils that you can use in a variety of purposes. In the perfume industry, they use a couple types of daffodils. And of course, daffodils are starting to come up now, so there's a list there. I don't grow any of these in my yard. I have a few, I think, that are cultivars that might have these as parents, but a few of the daffodils are fragrant enough.
Yeah, the Tazettas in particular they're real nice and real small and cute.
Several roses, of course, a lot of roses smell good. Several of them are actually used in the perfume industry. The damask rose, the French rose, the musk rose, and the multiflora rose are all used to get essential oils and put into perfumery and lotions and things like that. Tuberose, which is a little bulb we grow here, actually, on the list that I saw would be is somewhere in the top 5 of perfume plants worldwide. Okay, so it's grown all over the world. It's a Mexican plant, and it's zone 7. We can grow it here just as an ornamental, but it is widely used as a perfume. Another one on that list, widely used worldwide, is jasmine. And there's a couple jasmines you can use for perfume industry. This one is just the Jasminum officinale, the vine, the night blooming jasmine. That is also in all the poetry and stuff, Then there's a few others, not necessarily in the perfume industry so much, but thyme, you get essential oils out of it. It can be used as a deodorant, but is also used as a disinfectant, and the essential oils are also used as a insecticide. In fact, Tim, I believe, uses a thyme-based oil in our greenhouses because it's friendly, it's not toxic to people, and to control insects. Mints are used in flavorings, but you get like menthol cold medicine. That's mint. It's peppermint. That when you extract out the essential oil is called menthol, and then you mix that into your cold medicine or your cigarettes or whatever, and lavender, soaps, shampoos. It's also used in the perfume industry, but it's used in a lot of other places as well. Another way to get the scent out of a plant is to set it on fire. Okay, you burn it. It's called incense when you do that. And so there's a few plants I listed here that smell good when you burn them. Asarum canadense, the little shade-loving ground cover that you might be growing. You actually don't burn it. You roast the roots and they emit a nice odor. Sweet flag, Acorus calamus. It's a little bog plant with irisy like leaves, and they're quite fragrant, fresh, and also burned. And that's also one of the ones where you can chew the root and get some herbal uses out of the root as well. Eastern red cedar, Juniperus virginiana. Can burn that, or you can extract out oils and things from it. You can also collect off of a lot of these conifers the gums and resins and stuff that make your hands sticky when you move your Christmas tree out of the house. And then those will, you can dry those into granules and then burn those. And a lot of like the brazier photo that I have there from a Catholic church. It's the frankincense and myrrh and things like that are all these gums and resins that have been dried and used in incense. All right, now we are going to talk a little bit about medicine. Of course, the drug industry, all they do all day long is look at millions and millions of chemicals and assay them to see if they, against hundreds of thousands of ailments, and to see if the chemical that they can, that works against that ailment. So undoubtedly there's, even if you don't count the doctrine of signatures and all the stuff that happened in the medieval ages, it looks like a lung, so it's going to cure me of my tuberculosis kind of thing. It doesn't work. But even if you discount all that, there are more chemicals than I could ever name in my lifetime that are used as medicines now. I'll mention a few here, though. The Western yew, one we can grow here, Taxus brevifolia, from which they have created a cancer medication called Taxol. And of course, the tax in Taxol comes from the tax in Taxus. And it's used in breast and ovarian cancer. It is actually considered to be one of the most important cancer medications ever created. And it actually has a local connection. It was first refined in the 1960s here in the Research Triangle Park at a little place called the Research Triangle Institute. And I don't know if the RTI is still around or if it has gone in to become Burroughs Wellcome and then Burroughs, and all these companies bought each other up, and now there's just three. So it's probably just Pfizer now. Who knows? But this was a drug that was discovered locally, one of the most important cancer medications ever discovered. The next one here, my favorite annual, I grow this most summers, annual vinca, Catharanthus roseus. They've extracted two chemicals out of it, vincristine and vinblastine, both used for different types of cancer. Of course, the vin in vincristine is vin for vinca, which is Catharanthus is annual vinca. This little plant that you're just growing by your mailbox or wherever, and it looks beautiful all summer with no care on your part. It actually has very, very important medical uses as well. Now, everyone knows you shouldn't touch or eat, especially foxglove. foxglove's poisonous and don't get it, don't let your dog eat it and this and that. Well, there's a reason for that. There is a digitalis purpurea. There is a drug, digoxin, which is, I guess, digitalis toxin mashed together, but it is actually a very powerful heart medication. And of course, the dose makes the poison, right? So if it's a poison, if you just eat the plant like a salad, if you get the dose just right, it actually is used with heart arrhythmias and congestive heart failure to people with weak hearts. It strengthens their heartbeat, and so of course you can see how that would go wrong if you ate too much of it, but it is used as a medication. Cranberries, we can grow some cranberries around here, more in the north, but widely used for UTIs, urinary tract infections, and also used to help treat stomach ulcers. The bacteria that cause stomach ulcers and the fungi and bacteria that cause UTIs, they have to latch onto the mucous membrane, the tissues inside your body, and cranberry juice interferes with their ability to grab on. They can't grab on as well. So it helps people get over their UTI or their stomach ulcer. Now, these 4 are very well researched, and the first 3 are, drugs came through big pharma and all that. So these next ones are really more along the lines of, these are more traditional medications, not necessarily doctrine of signatures, but, herbal meds and that sort of thing, and a little less widely used, but less medical proof that they are super duper powerful. Garlic, of all things, a very widely known or popular antibacterial agent. And so you can help get rid of, you consume it or rub it on your skin or rub it on a surface and it kills bacteria. Echinacea. I think everybody probably grows echinacea, right? Immune support, you take your little echinacea pill when you have a cold and this and that. Does it work? I've never tried it. I don't know, but some people swear by it. Others probably, you can probably find a paper written said, hey, this doesn't work at all. Ginkgo biloba, I love ginkgo trees. It's one of my favorite trees. It's a conifer, actually, but you take, I forget, what do you take ginkgo for? It's for memory.
Good
okay.
One. Nice. I see what you did there. Well done.
Yeah. No, but actually, in traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, they use ginkgo for a lot of purposes. We happen to use it for memory support here in what are we, the West? We're the West, they're the East. But they use it for anti-inflammatory, and it's a relaxant, and there's any number of things that ginkgo leaves supposedly can do for you medicinally. And all of these plants we can grow in our own garden. That's the whole thread of this story. And I keep mentioning it over and over again. I grow several of these myself. And we have several more of these at the Arboretum too. Continue on with medication, pain relievers. We're going to talk about a couple of the big pain relievers and then a couple of minor ones. Opium, morphine, the opium poppy, Papaver somniferum, also called the bread poppy because it's the poppy seeds that you put on your bagel. That you can go to Logan's or Home Depot or whatever and buy opium poppy right now. They don't call it that. They call it bread poppy. But you can buy it. It's a great ornamental, colorful flowers, drought tolerant, heat, whatever. And of course, the medicinal product of that is once it is fertilized and the ovary is starting to swell before it is mature, you can cut it open in a latex, and we're going to talk about latex later, but latex will leak out and that has all the good stuff in it. Opium poppy has been used for like 3,500 years by human cultures. Way back, the Mesopotamians called it a joy plant because of the euphoric, not necessarily because of the pain relief. Aspirin, I don't know how many of you are growing willow trees, but lots of different species of willow can be used as a painkiller. In this case, we are not using the swollen ovary like in opium poppy. We're using the bark. And this was one of these technologies, discoveries that was found, then lost, then found again, and then improved into modern aspirin. Back in the olden days, call it 5,000 years ago, this is, by the way, the oldest drug known to be used by humans. You would peel off a strip of the bark and pop it in your mouth and just chew on it or suck on it. And you'd get the bitter compounds out. And the active ingredient is called salicin, salix. salicin maybe, and it is a pain reliever, it is a anti-inflammatory, and it is a fever reducer. So it's got quite a few uses. If you're just taking the bark, and later on they would powder the bark and take the powder, but you get a lot of stomach aches, even more than you do with regular, just modern aspirin. It caused a lot of stomach aches, and also it has very short shelf life. It lasts hours or days. So you can't harvest a bunch, store it for 6 months, and then sell it on the pharmacy shelf. So what happened is it was used 5,000 years ago up through like the Romans and the Egyptians, and then it was lost in the Dark Ages, and it was found again during the Renaissance, in Europe at least, and in the 1700s. And by the middle of the 1800s, when the start of this whole modern chemistry era, they were like, we got to figure out what it is in this that makes it work so good, and then see if we can mass produce it and also maybe fix some of the side effects. And so they finally figured it out, that it was salicin that gets converted to salicylic acid. And then they also figured out that, hey, if I have salicylic acid and I take a little molecule called an acetyl group and hook it on and create acetyl salicylic acid, not only do I not get very many side effects, but it lasts forever on the shelf. And by the late 1800s, aspirin was on the shelves. Okay, and all from the willow tree growing by the pond in your backyard. Capsicum, we use the lotions that have hot pepper in them to rub on our sore joints and our sore muscles, and it tricks our nerve endings into thinking they're being exposed to heat, and you get that response to heat, the relaxing and pain relieving response that you get to heat. And then there's a few others here. Lavender has some traditional pain relieving uses, the essential oil of lavender when rubbed as a lotion. Same with rosemary. And mint, of course, capsicum, you get hot. With mint, you get cold. And of course, you have the cool effect of mint that you use for sometimes for pain relief, and sometimes if you have a cold, to open up your sinuses. Who here knows the most used drug in the world on a daily basis? Probably everyone in this room has had some today. If you had your sweet tea with lunch, or your Diet Coke, or your caffeine. Yeah, caffeine. So caffeine actually evolved about 4 different times in 4 different unrelated plants. And the one we're going to start with here, Camellia sinensis, the tea camellia, which is a plant we can grow here. We generally don't. We generally go for the more colorful flowered camellias, but Camellia Forest does sell tea camellia as well, and you can harvest it and make your own tea if you want. Another caffeine producing plant that we can grow here, and this is one of the yaki, the Ilex vomitoria, the Yaupon holly, and it is a native shrub, and it is a caffeine producing shrub. The whole suffix vomitoria, or epithet vomitoria, comes from the fact that Native Americans used to challenge each other to see how much of it they could drink before they threw up, and the winner was the one who could go drink the most without throwing up. I wouldn't want to be at that party, but anyway, its active ingredient is caffeine as well, and there's a movement now to create homegrown caffeinated products from Ilex vomitoria. Yaupon holly. Also, the Daehoon holly, Ilex casein, also produces some, but not as much caffeine. And there's another one down in South America, Ilex, and I can never pronounce this right, paraguaniensis or something like that.
That was a valiant effort,
Yeah.
Dennis.
Yerba mate. Okay, yerba mate, also a caffeine shrub. And you can grow yerba mate shrub here. It is a zone 7 or 8 shrub. We can grow that here as well. The other, I'm not going to mention the other caffeine plants, well, chocolate, because we don't grow chocolate here. It's not one of our plants. Okay, ephedra. If you have a rock garden, you can grow ephedra maybe here for a little while before it peters out. It likes it dry. It's more of a Western U.S. thing. It grows in China too. There's a Chinese version of ephedra. All the different species of ephedra have ephedrine in them, which is an amphetamine type substance. And it used to be used also not only as a tea, the common name is Mormon tea, as a stimulant, also used to be used in diet pills because it would ramp up your metabolism so much you would literally sweat off the pounds, but it also ramped up your heart rate and people got heart attacks and stuff. So they don't really use ephedra too much anymore as a stimulant. But you can grow it and you can try it yourself if you want. Caveat emptor. Don't blame me. Let's go to the other end of let's go to relaxants. The scientific word for that is anti-anxiolytic. And all of these are just teas, and they're not strong relaxants. It's not like taking a Xanax. These are mild relaxants that will relax you a little bit. Lemon balm tea, chamomile tea, and these are all plants we can grow here too in our herb gardens. Echinacea makes a relaxing tea. Maypop, Passiflora incarnata, the native maypop makes a relaxing tea. And here's one, the American ginseng. It is actually a little problematic in that it is becoming endangered in the wild because of overcollection. It is extraordinarily popular in Asia. They have over there the Chinese ginseng, which is a stimulant drink, tonic, gets you up a little bit. American ginseng is a relaxant, brings you down a little bit, and it is so over-harvested here in the US and Canada that it is now on a CITES list. It is one of these ones that you cannot wild harvest it and export it anymore. They are trying to farm it though. It is makes a relaxing tea as well. Okay, and audience, if you're growing any of these things or have anything you want to add, throw it in the chat. I'd love to hear what other things that are on your mind about these different topics of phytochemicals.
I'll say that Jared is drinking some Yaupon tea right now. So
all right, go Jared. Yeah. I had some ginseng tea earlier today. The next topic, we're off of medicine now. We're going to go into, there's a few plants, a lot of plants produce this stuff called tannin. We all probably have heard the word tannin and don't really know what it is. Tannins are large molecules that bind to strongly to proteins and things like that. And so what we use tannins for is we soak a hide, an animal hide, in tannins, and it binds to all the protein. It makes that animal hide waterproof, and it keeps those proteins from decomposing, so it lasts forever. And you've got leather. Okay, so we use tannins to make leather, which is called tanning. All right. And a lot of plants produce tannins. The two I'm showing here, I'm not even showing it down to the species level, just to the genus level. A lot of oaks and a lot of maples produce a lot of tannins. All can be used in tanning. Okay. Disinfectants. Now, I kind of hinted to this earlier when we talked about thyme, and we're going to see thyme again, time and time again. Thymus, I have here that it says Thymus spp. Well, what does spp mean? Spp means many, many species in the genus Thymus. Okay, so many species of thyme. Anytime you see SPC, it means many species of. All right, many species of Thymus. The essential oils are well known to antibacterial products. So you can use them as disinfectants, like you would use Lysol. Okay, you spray it on your counters or whatever. Like I said earlier, Tim is using a thyme-based product in the greenhouses because it's also an insecticide. And it also smells pretty good as well. It smells like a pizza shop. Oregano also is a surface disinfectant. And again, you're making a liquid solution of it, a tisane, basically. Don't even have to have a fancy solvent for it, just water. Lindera benzoin, spicebush, and one or two of the other linderas also have disinfectant properties when mixed with water, the leaves. Black oak, Quercus velutina, we actually use the bark on that one, mix it with water, and it becomes a good disinfectant. So much so that you can buy black oak hand sanitizer, and you can also buy thyme-based hand sanitizers in the store or on Amazon or whatever, wherever you buy Temu, wherever you buy your preferred products these days. Moving on to the next ethnobotanical category, soaps. Now these days, when you buy soap, you're buying an industrially produced soap. But prior to the age of modern chemistry, we used naturally occurring plant-based soaps. And the chemical is the second time I'm going to mention one of these chemical names. It's called saponin. It's a class of chemicals, saponins. And what they are is they are soluble in water and they are also soluble in oil. And usually water and oil don't mix, but saponins can dissolve both. So you mix them in water, and they also foam a little bit in water, so you get the little soapy water. And then you can wash them, and they clear off the oil, which is carrying the dirt and the stinky, smelly parts or whatever off of you and into the water. So that's how soaps work in general. And saponins, there's a lot of plant-based saponins out there, soaps out there. Of course, there's this genus here, Saponaria, a common name soapwort. And it is just a little herb, a pretty little thing, a perennial, pink flowers here. And we can grow it here. And you mash up the entire plant and soak it in water, and you'll get a sudsy water. Now, we're not talking super sudsy. We're not talking like when you squirt dishwashing soap into a hot tub. It's not that amount of foaming. It's just a little bit of foaming. These natural ones are not super sudsy. Yucca. A lot of us grow yucca, and the roots of yuccas are filled with saponins, and if you can get under the leaves without killing yourself, you can get some of those roots out and extract some saponins from them and use them as soap. Agave, same story, different plant part though. It's the leaves of agave, especially Agave americana, that has saponins in them. Aesculus, many species of aesculus, horse chestnuts. They produce those big buckeye seeds, and those seeds are filled with saponins. And so you mash up the seeds and boil them, and you'll get a sudsy water out of the seeds. And then there's another little herb that we can grow around here, Silene armeria. I like Silene. I don't grow this one in my house, but I've grown other Silenes as well. Here's the next topic is cosmetics. And of course, cosmetics, I could go on till the end of time talking about all the plants used in cosmetics. I have one slide on it. I'm sorry. This is what we're going to do. And actually, I didn't even choose all of cosmetics. There's not pigments and this and that. I just chose skincare, okay? And even under that, there's hundreds and hundreds of plants used by humans as skincare. And some of you might have better experience with this than me, but because I don't use any of these products myself, but some of them are quite interesting. The only two I put pictures of, aloe vera. Everyone has an aloe vera plant at home. You break a leaf, you squeeze the mucilage all over you, and you rub it on when you have a sunburn or dry skin or whatever, and it's okay. But it's used widely by humans. And the other one I have a picture of, and we have some here right next to me, Hamamelis, witch hazel. These are sort of in bloom. Here's one that's got some more flowers on it. Hamamelis is used in the skincare industry as an astringent. An astringent is a chemical that causes tissues to shrink and tighten up. You can use it as a disinfectant and a cleanser, but its main role, witch hazel's main role, is as an astringent. You just boil the leaves and the twigs and the flowers in water, and then you decant that water into a bottle, and that's the witch hazel you go and buy in Target. Is just that. It's bottled, boiled water of this shrub, which is in bloom right now in the garden. It smells good. Interesting flowers on them. Now, you can see every plant on this list is one that we can grow here. St. John's wort, pomegranate, raspberry. You put onions apparently on your scars so that they don't get so big. I don't know if the smell would be bad or not, but I've always seen on TV ladies putting cucumbers on their eyes. Never knew why. Apparently it helps prevent wrinkles. The chemicals in the cucumber fruit. If you have acne, rosemary, essential oil. If you have oily skin, yarrow or hart's tongue fern, you mash up the leaves, make a poultice, slap it on, and I guess all your problems are solved, maybe. And this one got me at first. When I first read skin whitening, who would want whiter and whiter skin? It's you can use annual sunflower, the oil from the seeds, and you can use turmeric and make a paste out of turmeric. And we can grow turmeric. That's curcuma longa. It makes a nice little summer tropical. That's for if you have dark spots and you're trying to lighten a spot. I guess age spots or freckles or whatever. Anyway, so skin whitening. And this doesn't even scratch the surface of all the different uses that we have for plants in cosmetics. It goes on and on. It's amazing. Now we're going to go into repellents and pesticides. Okay. Now plants, as I mentioned at the beginning, they only experience the world through chemistry, right? So if they have a pest or a predator or something, they have a chemical reaction. So there's lots and lots and lots of repellents and pesticides in the plant world. And one of the ways, at least they used to get these out there, is through this thing called strewing herbs. Now, to strew is to toss onto the ground, okay? And so strewing herbs, you grow herbs in your garden, you harvest the fragrant parts, and back in the old days, you would toss them on the floor of your house. And cover the floor. Or if you didn't want to do that, you at least put them in the doorways and in the entryways and in the windowsills, the points of ingress for pests. And these strewing herbs, some of which are insecticides or insect repellents, would keep the insects out of your house. But the other reason we use strewing herbs is you throw them on the floor, and then as you walk over them, you release the scent, and you get you scent the room nicely back before they had Glade plugins. And this is, if you can imagine, in like the 1600s, and you bathed once a year, and you were going to church for Christmas, and you were going to crowd into a tiny little room, and you stunk. Well, that's what strewing herbs were used for. You'd walk in and you'd walk over basil and fennel and this and that, and you didn't smell so bad in church anymore. Okay, so there's two real reasons to use strewing herbs. One is to repel, and one is just to deodorize. But we're going to go back and talk more about the repellents. Now, Mark Wethington is always talking about how he uses Calicarpa leaves, and he crushes them up and rubs them on his skin as a mosquito repellent. So we'll call that one a famously well-known one. I don't know if it is or not outside of the Arboretum, but so there's a repellent, keeps mosquitoes, they don't like the smell or whatever, and they go away. You can use other plants like that, Achillea, yarrow, Acorus, which is sweet flag, Calycanthus, Liatris, oregano. These are all things that you can rub on your skin, and they will repel insects from via some mechanism or another. Okay. Onion too, if you can stand the smell, onion and garlic. Of course, I've always heard if you eat enough onion and garlic, mosquitoes don't bite you. And it has something to do with the sulfur compounds in them. But they also, you can throw onion and garlic on the ground, and it apparently repels moles as well out of your garden. So here's another thing for someone to try this summer. Quercus, oaks, the leaf mulch that it falls off them, repels slugs and grubs. So you want to not get rid of your oak leaves, save them, put them around your hostas or something in the winter, and hopefully you'll repel some of those slugs and grubs off of them. And then a lot of people my age and older have their cedar chest, or a dresser with a little block of cedar wood in it. Cedar and balsam fir are both known to repel moths through their scent. And so there's a picture of a cedar chest there. So a little English lesson here. The suffix "cide," C-I-D-E, means to strike down or to kill. Okay? So any chemical that ends in "cide" is going to strike down or kill something or other. And then the prefix to that word tells you what it's going to kill. So herbicides kill herbs. Herbs are plants. Insecticides kill insects. And all of these on this page are asides, some sort of side. So herbicides, we know black walnuts, nothing grows under them, and that's because of the allelopathic action of the roots. Pine needles can prevent weed seeds from germinating, so there's an herbicide use. Lantana leaves apparently are widely used. They're quite toxic, and you can make a tea out of them and spray it, or you can just strew the leaves around somewhere, and they will have an herbicide action upon other plants. Insecticides, and here I'm going to pick up the next one. This is what's in bloom in the garden today. This is a hellebore. This is a hybrid, complex hybrid. One of the parents of this one is what's on my slide here, Helleborus niger. This has probably got 7 different parents, so it's a very complex hybrid. Helleborus niger is an insecticide. I believe it's the leaves. And it kills, I don't know if you rub dust or lotion or something, but you put it on you and it will kill lice, head lice, body lice. It will kill fleas. So I guess you can put some on your pet as well. Or you could just, another thing they would do, and they do this with some of the string herbs, is you stuff your mattress. Back when you had mattresses to stuff, you would stuff your mattresses with stuff like this to get rid of the insects that might be living in them. Tomato leaves, you make a tea out of them, it kills ants. All right, fungicides, we're killing fungi now, okay? And these are all things you generally make a tea out of and then spray it on. There's thyme again at the bottom of that list, and a few other things that we can grow in our gardens. There's allium again. Allium is on this list quite a few times. Teas of these things are used to treat various types of fungus, whether it's powdery mildew or black spot or whatever. Probably each one of these has a different target audience. And the picture there, that is of Impatiens capensis, which is also widely used as a poison ivy cure. Jewelweed is a native, it grows around here, and it grows in some of the same places that poison ivy grows, where right where the woods stop and the field ends, kind of on the border there, you'll find a lot of jewelweed. And it's just like Mark's calocarpa. You pick the leaves, you rub the juice all over you, and what it does is it breaks down and dissolves the resin that poison ivy puts on you that's so hard to get off, and it breaks it down, it washes it off real easy. Okay, so you can use jewelweed as a poison ivy remedy. That's a little off topic, but important, I thought. And parasitides, okay? I hope I pronounced that right. I don't think I did. We all know you plant marigolds around your veggie bed to kill nematodes, parasites, and you can also do the same with asparagus. So these are all the plants that we can grow that are sides of some sort. All right. Now, I didn't do much with culinary stuff. There's just not a time. We spend most of our time eating. We all know a lot of this stuff anyway. Black pepper. Okay. And so I'll end here then with this slide. And there's a few after it, but we can just put that on the web. We use sweeteners. Okay. So we've all grown or tried to grow stevia. I've grown it as an annual several times. It dies out on me pretty quick. I don't treat it very well. And the leaf is sweeter than sugar, and you really want to distill out the sweet subject. If you just eat the leaf, it is sweet, but it's also, has a yucky taste too. But that's one we can grow, a sweetener. Here's one, licorice root. Licorice is actually a plant in the pea family, Fabaceae, and it's the root of this plant that they farm for licorice flavoring, which is, the root is very, very sweet and also has some licorice flavoring. So sometimes people will use this root as a sweetener. And this is one that I grow up in my own yard. I like it. It's a type of hydrangea. Now, there's a species called Hydrangea serrata, which is the Japanese mountain hydrangea. And a certain group of those are called the amacha varieties of Japanese mountain hydrangea. Amacha is Japanese for?
Oh, I don't know.
Sweet tea. And right before the plant flowers, you can harvest the leaves. You have to ferment them a little bit. So you roll them like you would green tea to break some of the cells, and then you let them ferment for a couple days, and that develops a substance in them that is sweeter than sugar, and then you can make a tea out of it. It's just a sweet hot beverage that you can make out of a matcha variety hydrangeas. A lot of the cultivar names have a matcha in the cultivar name if it's one of these varieties of. So there's Yae no Amachi and Amachi no Nishiki.
Okay.
And things like that.
Okay. So tea is ocha and sweet is amai. So you smush them together, amacha.
There we go.
There it is.
Okay, Japanese lesson. And then a handful of others that are also used as sugar substitutes, not necessarily 0-calorie ones, but there is a fern called the licorice fern, Polypodium glycyrrhiza, that has sweet licorice flavored roots as well as the licorice plant does. Tilia americana, it's a tree, a linden tree. You can tap the sap of it, and it's a sweet tasting sap. Now up in Canada, they are tapping sugar maples to make maple syrup. Other maples you can tap as well. They're not as productive. So down here, where sugar maples are a little iffy, we can tap the red maple that the housing development put in everybody's yard. And you can get not as much sweetened sap out of it, but some. And then this last one I'll talk about is Asclepias tuberosa, milkweed. It is in the summertime when it's really going strong, it can produce so much nectar, little sugar water for the insects, that it starts to bubble up out of the flower. So much it gets pushed up out of the flower and it dries into little granules of little sweet granules to eat. So I'm getting the eye from Blake that our time is up. I have a few more, but we can end it anywhere. That's
For
fine.
sure. Like we're running, we'll just do questions. How about, and then that'll be our show. How's
Sure,
that sound?
that sounds good. And so we can take some questions now.
Okay. Well, so we had a couple people they were very intrigued by the concept of using thyme solutions as insecticides on plants and stuff. So they were really asking about like the nitty gritty of like how do you make that?
So not necessarily, unless you are into collecting essential oils by hand, it's not necessarily something you do. You boil the plant in water and mash it up to get all the liquid out. And then you boil that liquid at a certain temperature and you build a distillation column, and as the steam rises up and it hits a certain temperature, you can extract off the vapor at that temperature and condense it. And if you get the right point in the distillation column, you will get the essential oil of thyme. And all the other stuff that's in that vapor either hasn't gotten up that high in the column or continues on up. And you're collecting, and so that's how you collect an essential oil. I certainly have never done that. It sounds like something you'd have to have a big garage to do to build your own distillation column. But
no doubt,
certainly people do it. And then you collect the essential oil, and then you take that essential oil and you mix it in a sprayer with some soapy water. And because it is an oil and it needs a soap in order to get incorporated into the water, and then you can spray that out.
Cool.
So I can't give you exact instructions, so I don't know what temperature and for how long. And
for sure, somebody else wanted to know, like with regards to turmeric, how can it be used to lighten dark spots? Do you mix it with anything? Yeah,
you take turmeric powder and you mix it with water and make a poultice and slap it on wherever you want a dark spot to go away. There are specific recipes for that online, and they'll say stuff like, "Oh, add some honey and add some this and that," and that's most of that's just not necessary. Yeah.
Sure. Gail wanted to know if you could recommend any good reference books about any of the information.
Yes. At the end of this slide package, I've got a further reading references section, but some that I really like. Plants for a Future, pfaf.org, is a great website. You can search for it by species. You can search for it by type, like what are the plants that are disinfectants? What are the plants that are stimulants, and so on and so on. And that's a great resource. Another one that I like is the Native American Ethnobotany Database. Okay, and I don't remember the website of it. You can Google it, and you just type in any plant, and it will give you a big long list of results how each of the different Native American nations or tribes or groups used it in an ethnobotanical sense. So that's really more for U.S. native plants, but it's a really good site as well. Those are two references that I like a lot.
Cool. And Dennis, if you send me these slides, I can include all your resources in the description for this recording so that we can be accessed from YouTube. So
sure.
That's great. Jared wanted to know, isn't Thymol actually toxic? We just consume it in such low doses it doesn't hurt us?
That's right. The dose makes the poison. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and that's true with any of this stuff. Okay, this Hydrangea serrata, a matcha series, the sweet tea hydrangea that I just mentioned. If you drink too much of this tea, no good, no bueno, right? Say, just like with digoxin from Digitalis, it's a little bit is okay, a lot is bad.
For sure. Now, I do think that's all the questions, and we are a little bit over time, but I would like to do a little something special for people that are still with us. Dennis, would you be so kind as to go a little bit into the sordid history of sassafras?
So, okay. So one of the things Blake and I were talking about in prep for the show was maybe doing some of the, I'm going to use air quotes here, sexual aids that plant phytochemicals can give us. Okay, and actually, Tim brought one in. I didn't even get time to that. We can mention that one as an epilogue too. So sassafras. native North American tree, Sassafras albitum. And when the Spanish colonials first came here and landed in Florida, the Native Americans told them about sassafras and showed them how to harvest it. You cut the roots off and peel the roots and this and that. And you get a sweet tasting tea out of it, basically. And that is a cure-all for a lot of different things, and including STDs. And the Spanish conquistador types who are going all over the world doing God knows what, were very interested in STD redemption. And so they actually took this for themselves. They also took it back to Europe. They were mixing a drink. They would take sassafras, which has a kind of a root beery, licoricey flavor, and mix it with hot milk and sugar. Sounds actually pretty good. They called it salep. It's one of a couple of drinks called salep. And then you would drink it as a antidote for your various what do they call them? Various diseases, various STDs. And so it got to the point where, first of all, this lasted about 10 years. And in those 10 years, sassafras was the #1 export from the US over to Europe, even more than tobacco. Okay, and for this reason, in fact, Sir Walter Raleigh is said to have come to North Carolina looking for a British source of sassafras, so they didn't have to buy it from the Spanish, who were hogging it all because they were getting it in Florida. And of course, sassafras grows from Florida all the way up to Canada. So that's it. So after 10 years, they realized this is hogwash. It really is not a cure-all, and it definitely doesn't cure STDs. So, and it got kind of a bad rep. So if you were seen drinking a mug of Salep, people look at you and go, I know what's wrong with him. I know where he's been. And so it was also kind of a social disgrace to even seen drinking Salep. So all of a sudden the market tanked, no more Salep, no more sassafras export, and at least not for those purposes, and no more Salep drinking. The other one here, Tim brought in Epimedium. A great little perennial. I love it. I've got a bunch of it in my yard. It makes beautiful flowers in the spring. Fairy wings is the common name. You might have heard it as fairy wings. The leaf of Epimedium, its other common name is horny goatweed. Okay, and you can actually go to Eckerd Drugs or what?
Eckerd, jeez.
I'm old. Target.
There you go.
And you can buy horny goatweed in a bottle now, and it's basically just the dried leaves of this in a pill, and it has a weak Viagra-like effect on the male of the species, and it was first noticed in China. Goats would eat it and get randy, and so then humans tried it, and it got to the point where in China, where a lot of these species are native, it's actually being over-harvested in the wild for that purpose, not for its ornamental traits, which we grow it for here.
All right. No kidding. Well, great. Yeah. Thank you, Dennis, so much for taking us through this presentation. It was a lot of fun, and we learned a heck of a lot. So thank you so much for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on the Midweek program today. We will be back next Wednesday at 3 o'clock with a garden conversation with Jerry Donnelly, who was the former director of the Morton Arboretum in Chicago, I do believe.
Okay.
I'll fix that in post if that's not true. Anyway, we'll see you all next time. Y'all take care.